Hi everyone, I'm Zioking from Susan's family. Today I'll show you the feather knot strap set. For this electronic tutorial, you can check it on the website by searching for susud.com. The set includes a bottom shirt and a strap top. Complete each part and then pair them together. This set comes in 2 sizes. The making method is identical, but the stitch count and row numbers differ in some sections. Let's start with the bottom shirt. It consists of the front piece, back piece, sleeves, cuffs, collar edge, and buttons. First, complete the front piece, back piece, and sleeves separately. Once done, connect the front and back pieces with the sleeves. Then pick up the sleeve edge to crochet the cuff. Next, pick up the neckline position to crochet the collar edge. Finally, attach the buttons on the corresponding positions. Let's start with crocheting the front piece. It is divided into 3 areas: the body, armpit, and shoulder parts. Start with a chain stitch. Then work back and forth along the starting chain for these 3 areas. Begin by crocheting the body part. The stitch techniques used include chain stitches and double crochets. Please watch my demonstration. For convenience in viewing, I will use cotton yarn for the demonstration going forward, and the colors will be random. For specific yarn, color schemes, and hook sizes, please refer to the detail page of our product and the paper instructions. Start with a chain stitch. The exact number of chains can be referenced from the chart. After completing the foundation chain, start crocheting row 1. Start with 3 chain stitches as the beginning chain. These 3 chains count as 1 double crochet. Then, make 1 chain stitch for the interval. Find the 7th chain position from right to left below. Note that the loop on the hook does not count. Pick up the 2 strands of yarn above this chain. Let me point out the position first. That means picking up these strands. Crochet 1 double crochet, make 1 chain stitch for the interval. Skip 1 chain stitch below to the left. Then pick up the 2 strands of the corresponding chain and crochet 1 double crochet. Make 1 chain stitch for the interval. From now on, skip 1 chain separately. Alternate crocheting 1 double crochet and 1 chain stitch. Complete the remaining part. Finish the 1 stitch on the edge. Now the first row is done. Continue to the second row. Start with 3 chain stitches as the beginning chain. Turn over. Then crochet 1 chain stitch for the interval. Here, the beginning stitch corresponds to the double crochet on the bottom edge. Work downward from the second double crochet on the left. Pick up the stitches and correspondingly make double crochets. Crochet 1 chain stitch between the double crochets. Here, when crocheting on the wrong side of the previous row, the stitch is located at the upper left. When encountering the position of the beginning stitch from the previous row, here you pick up the top chain from the turning chains. That is, at this point, the second chain stitch position from the left. Pick up the 2 strands of this chain and make 1 double crochet. At this point, the second row is completed. For the remaining rows, continue crocheting using the same method as the second row. Everyone can finish it. With that, the body section is explained. Next, we will crochet the armpit area. Decrease stitches on both sides. The new stitches used include DC2 tog, DC3 tog, and TRDC2 tog. A new method is also used. Carry yarn across. Please watch me demonstrate. Here, I will use this sample for the demonstration. In the first row, some positions need to be left unworked. So, you need to start carrying yarn across. First, enlarge the loop on the crochet hook. Then draw the yarn or fabric through from the inside. Slightly tighten the yarn. Then, have the wrong side of the previous row facing you. Next, refer to the chart to find the corresponding double crochet position. For my sample, the placement is random here. For specifics, everyone should refer to the chart. Pick up the double crochet stitch and insert the hook, then pull the yarn through. Here, adjust the pulled yarn slightly, so it's level with the fabric. Then make 4 chain stitches as the beginning chain. Next, pick up the positions of 2 adjacent double crochets. Work a DC2 tog. First, work 2 incomplete double crochets. One stitch. 2 stitches. Finally, yarn over and draw through all loops on the hook in once. This completes the DC2 tog. Continue picking up stitches afterward. Alternate crocheting 1 double crochet and 1 chain stitch. Keep crocheting until you reach the position before the chart's T or DC2 tog. Once you reach the corresponding position, pick up the double crochet positions below. Crochet 2 incomplete double crochets. Then crochet 1 incomplete treble crochet. At this point, there are 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over and draw through all loops on the hook in once. Complete the T or DC2 tog. Leave the remaining part unworked. That concludes the method for row 1. Continue with row 2. Start with 3 chain stitches as the turning chain. Turn over. Then pick up the chain spaces and double crochet stitches on the left. Crochet a DC2 tog. Afterwards, alternate crocheting double crochets and 1 chain stitch. Keep crocheting until before the position of the DC3 tog on the chart. When you reach the corresponding position, pick up the double crochet stitch below and the chain space and decrease stitch. Crochet 3 incomplete double crochets. Then yarn over, and draw through all the loops on your hook once. This completes the DC3 tog. Do not work the following turning chains. That concludes row 2. For the remaining rows in the armpit area, some rows also require decreasing, other rows are worked even. And the beginning and ending of the even rows are 2 continuous double crochets. All the stitch techniques used have been demonstrated before. Please refer to the chart to complete the remaining part. This concludes the armpit area. Next, we will crochet the shoulder parts. Here, you need to divide into 2 shoulder parts for crocheting. Start by continuing with the previous yarn tail to crochet 1 shoulder part. After completing it, join a new yarn to crochet the other shoulder part. The new stitches used include half double crochets and single crochets. Please watch me demonstrate. Start by continuing with the previous yarn. Work the last decrease position of this side shoulder part as shown in the chart. Leave the remaining part unworked. Continue working back and forth afterward. The stitch techniques and methods used in the first few rows have all been demonstrated before. Refer to the chart and keep crocheting until the third last row. Next, I'll explain the method for the last 3 rows. Let's start with the third row from the end. Here, I'm demonstrating with a small swatch. Start by making 1 chain as your beginning chain. Turn over, then pick up the stitch and work 1 single crochet. Insert the hook into the position where 1 stitch is picked up from the edge. Work 1 more single crochet into the adjacent stitch. Then make 1 chain for the interval. Continue by working 1 single crochet into the next double crochet position. Make 1 chain for the interval. Work 1 half double crochet into the next stitch position. Make 1 chain for the interval. Continue crocheting with double crochets and chains. Finally, you'll need to decrease. Refer to the chart to finish the rest of this row. Now let's go over the second to last row. Start by following the chart to complete the corresponding stitches. Leave the remaining part unworked. When you reach the last row, start carrying the yarn across. Then insert the hook into the corresponding double crochet. Draw the yarn through. Pay attention to carry the yarn across. Pull the yarn so it's level with the fabric. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Continue crocheting by referring to the chart. When you finish, fasten off the yarn. Weave the tail end into the wrong side of the fabric. You can weave in a few more stitches if needed. That concludes the method for this side of the shoulder part. Move on to crocheting the other side of the shoulder part. Place the first row of the crocheted shoulder part with the right side facing you. Refer to the chart to locate the corresponding double crochet position. Insert into the stitch for picking up. Join the yarn. Pick up the yarn. Make a slip knot with the yarn. Place it onto the crochet hook. Pull through. Adjust slightly. Mindful that the knot doesn't show on the right side. At this point, the joining of the yarn is completed. Then make 4 chain stitches as the beginning chain. Afterwards, continue crocheting by referring to the chart. Finish crocheting this side of the shoulder part. After completion, fasten off the yarn and weave in the ends. With that, the explanation for the shoulder parts is finished. Simultaneously, the entire front piece has been fully explained. Next, we will work on the back piece. Similarly, divide into 3 areas: body, armpit, and shoulder parts. The crocheting method for the body and armpit areas is exactly identical to the front piece. The shoulder part is also divided into left and right sections, and there will be some overlapping regions between them. Next, I'll explain the crocheting method for the shoulder parts. First, everyone refer to the chart. Crochet the body and armpit areas until they're completed. Let me start by explaining one side of the shoulder part. Similarly, first continue with the previous yarn. Crochet this shoulder part section until it's done. The stitch techniques and methods used here have all been demonstrated before. Everyone refer to the chart and complete it. After finishing, crochet the other side of the shoulder part. The starting position for these first few stitches needs to be crocheted by inserting the hook from the back side of the shoulder parts before. Next, I'll demonstrate this method using a sample swatch. Begin by having the right side of the back piece facing you. When overlapping here, the left shoulder part should be in front. Then you need to pick the corresponding position from behind. Crochet the other side of the shoulder part. Place the first row of the crocheted shoulder part with the right side facing you. Then locate the first stitch on the right among these 5 stitches. Pick its insertion point for joining the yarn. Then make 3 beginning chains. Continue by picking the insertion positions of the next 4 adjacent stitches. Crochet 4 double crochets correspondingly. After completing it, continue downward by alternating 1 chain stitch and 1 double crochet. All double crochets are inserted into the stitches. Finish with the last stitch. That concludes the method for the first row. For the remaining rows, just refer to the pattern chart to crochet. At this point, the explanation for the shoulder parts is complete. And up to this point, the entire back piece has been fully explained. Next, proceed to make the sleeves. There are 2 of them, and their making methods are identical. The handling method for some parts is slightly different. A single sleeve is divided into section 1 of the sleeve body, section 2 of the sleeve body, and the sleeve cap. Among these, there are 2 parts in section 1 of the sleeve body. Complete both section 1 parts first. Then, overlap and crochet section 2 upwards on the overlapping area. Finally, crochet the sleeve cap. A new stitch technique is used here. SC2 tog. Please watch as I demonstrate. First, everyone refer to the chart and complete crocheting the 2 section 1 pieces. After completion, make sure to fasten off the yarn. Next, I'll demonstrate crocheting section 2 using a swatch. Place both section 1 pieces with the right side facing out. Overlap the side that has several consecutive double crochets. When working on the left sleeve, the left piece should be on top. For the right sleeve, the right piece should be on top. Then join the yarn on one stitch at the right edge. Crochet 1 double crochet and 1 chain stitch next. Continue crocheting until you reach just before the spot where there are several consecutive double crochets. That is, just before the area that needs to overlap. Once you've reached the corresponding position, proceed to overlap the pieces as done previously. Then insert the hook into both pieces double crochet stitches simultaneously. Crochet 5 double crochets, matching them up one by one. You can weave in the yarn tail as you crochet. After completing, work the remaining part of the left side fabric piece separately by picking up and crocheting. Alternate between 1 double crochet and 1 chain stitch. Crochet all the way down until it's done. Once the last stitch is finished. That concludes the explanation for the first row of section 2. For the remaining rows, simply follow the chart. Pay attention, after finishing the second row, check the stitch count. When counting the double crochets, remember to count the beginning chain as 1 stitch. It's included. That concludes the explanation for the sleeve body section. Next, we'll move on to the sleeve cap. Here, at the beginning and end of the first row, you need to skip a few positions and leave them unworked. For the remaining rows, decreases are required at both ends. Besides the SC2 tog, all other stitches have been demonstrated before, so let's focus on explaining the SC2 tog method next. You can all learn this first, and then combine it with the chart for crocheting later. Please watch the demonstration. SC2 tog. Insert the hook into the left stitch. Yarn over and pull through. This is an incomplete single crochet. Insert into the adjacent stitch. Yarn over and pull through. Complete the 2 incomplete single crochets. At this point, there are 3 loops on the hook. Wrap the yarn around the hook. Draw through the next 3 loops in sequence. Pull the yarn through. 1 SC2 tog is now complete. This is the crocheting method for a SC2 tog. After completion, you need to fasten off the yarn and weave in the ends. That concludes the explanation of crocheting the sleeves. Next, we will join the pieces. Here, the front and back pieces need to be connected to the body and shoulders. The sleeves need to be connected to the sleeve body. Match the sleeve cap with the armhole of the front and back pieces. The joining method is the same here. Use a slip stitch and chain stitch technique for joining. Let me first explain the insertion position for connecting. When connecting the body area to the sleeve body area, pick up the edge of each row. Pick up one stitch or 1-2 strands from the edge and insert the hook. When connecting the shoulder, you can pick up stitches or insert into chain spaces. Here, the sleeve cap will be connected last. At the top of the sleeve cap, pleats need to be formed. Below, I'll provide a method for joining fabric pieces using slip stitches and chain stitches as a reference. And it will separately explain the joining methods of two kinds of insertion positions. Let's learn this first, then connect according to the actual situation. Note that all joining is done on the wrong side of the piece. Now, let's show. Here I'll demonstrate with a swatch. The method for joining between rows. Make sure the right side of the fabric faces out. Align the areas that need to be joined. You can join from the starting chain side, or you can join from the end side. First, join the yarn at the edge of the rightmost row on the front fabric piece. If this is the starting point, you can join the yarn at the insertion position. If it's the ending side, pick up above the turning chain, or stitch to join the yarn. Then crochet a chain as a transition. The number of chains here can also be adjusted according to your preference. The more chains there are, the width of the joining area will be larger. For the sample, crochet one chain here, slip stitch at the corresponding position on the edge of the back piece. Don't pull too tight. You can also adjust the joining stitch according to your preference. For example, switch to single crochet. In this sample, slip stitches are used throughout. Continue with the chain. Go back to the front piece. Pick a suitable position. That is, after crocheting the chain stitches, estimate the position you can roughly reach. If there are more chain stitches, the connecting interval can be slightly increased. For this sample, pick one stitch from the edge of this row for joining. Continue crocheting the chain. Slip stitch at the corresponding position on the back piece. Keep joining using this method. Pay attention to adjust the joining position based on the actual situation. Ensure the fabric pieces are evenly and smoothly connected. Don't forget to join at the final edge position. Make sure the sides of the pieces match up. Finally, fasten off the yarn and weave in the ends. Everyone can now complete it. That concludes the explanation of joining rows together. Below, I'll demonstrate the stitch position joining method using a swatch. Align the positions that need to be joined. Ensure the right sides of the fabric pieces are both facing outwards. On the front side, join the yarn above the one stitch on the right edge. If it's a regular stitch here, you can simply insert your hook into the stitch. If it's turning chain, then pick up the 2 strands of the chain stitch above the turning chain to join the yarn. Then crochet a chain for transition. The number of chain stitches here can also be adjusted according to your preference. The more chain stitches, the wider the joining area will be. For the sample, crochet 1 chain stitch here, then work a slip stitch into the 1 stitch on the edge of the fabric piece at the back. Don't pull too tight. You can also adjust the joining stitch according to your preference. For example, you could use single crochets instead, but for this sample, all connections are made with slip stitches. Continue with crocheting chain stitches. Go back to the front piece. Pick a suitable position. That is, after finishing the chain stitches. Estimate where you can roughly reach. The more chain stitches, then the joining interval can be slightly increased. For this sample, join with an interval of 1 stitch. If the joining positions are not in the same row, just choose an approximate position. That works well, as long as after joining, the fabric pieces connect evenly and lay flat. Continue crocheting chain stitches. Join at the corresponding position on the other side. Follow this method. Choose a proper position on the front and back fabric pieces to join together. Pay attention to joining the edges of the fabric pieces correspondingly. After completing the join with the last 2 edge stitches, fasten off the yarn and weave in the ends. Similarly, hide the starting yarn tail on the wrong side. Everyone can now finish it. This concludes the explanation of joining stitch positions. Next, I'll explain how to connect the sleeve cap. When connecting here, you need to secure the position first. First, Match the ending position of the sleeve body with the ending position of the body. The centered position of the sleeve cap should correspond to the shoulder connection point. You can use a stitch marker or yarn to secure it in place. This makes it more convenient for the subsequent connection. If you don't have a stitch marker, you can also use a paperclip or a safety pin as a substitute. Then, starting from the center of the sleeve cap, count down about 6-7 rows of double crochets. Match these rows with the edge of the last row of the sleeve cap. Secure it in the same way. For the remaining part, roughly fix the sleeve cap to the armpit areas of the front and back pieces evenly. Here, you can stretch the sleeve flat a bit. After securing the position well, continue downward. First, connect to the edge of the last row of the sleeve cap. Later, you'll need to join it into a pleated shape. I'll demonstrate the joining method for the pleats as we move downward. When connecting the folding point here, on one side of the sleeve cap, pick up a few stitches together and insert the hook. Work one slip stitch. This completes one connection at the folding point. Continue downward, roughly matching, and connecting using the previous method. I'll demonstrate the method for connecting at the fold one more time. Pick up a few stitches on one side of the sleeve cap. Work a slip stitch together. Then continue connecting using the previous method. Pay attention to evenly distribute the pleats. This is the method for connecting the pleats. Afterward, everyone can continue to join using the normal joining method as established. That concludes the explanation of the joining section. Next, we'll crochet the cuff edge. Crochet back and forth along the cuffs. Here, you need to use the gem twist for crocheting. Before crocheting, you need to prepare the gem twist first. I'll demonstrate the method for preparing the gem twist below. Please watch the demonstration. I'll demonstrate how to pull the thread from the gem twist. As you can see, the gem twist is a bundle of threads woven together. Find any spot where the thread starts and cut it. Gently shake off the loose broken threads. The break forms a yarn tail and a few loops. Gently pull the yarn tail. Pay attention to pulling the tail out from the loops. The loops will loosen. Make sure to pull gently. If after pulling a few stitches, you find the yarn tail has a knot, then untie the knot at that spot. Or choose another section nearby and cut it again. Repeat the previous steps. Until all the loops come undone one by one when you pull the yarn tail. Then combine the strand of gem twist you've unraveled. With another yarn into a group for crocheting. When we refer to a single strand later on, it actually means a group like this. We won't repeat this explanation moving forward. After dealing with the gem twist, continue crocheting downward. Combine the gem twist with the crocheting yarn. From now on, treat these two strands as one for crocheting. Here, I'm demonstrating with a small swatch, and I'm only using one strand of yarn. Pay attention, when I say one strand here, it actually means two strands in practice. Place the right side of the sleeve body facing up. The side with the beginning chain should also face up. Then insert the hook into the gap between the two stitches on the right edge to join the yarn. Chain 1 as the beginning chain. Work 1 single crochet in the same position. Remember to weave in the yarn tail as you crochet. Continue downward. Pick up the gap between the adjacent two stitches. Work 3 single crochets correspondingly. Then pick up the chain space between double crochets. Crochet 1 single crochet. Skip an adjacent chain space. Pick up the following 3 chain spaces and work single crochets correspondingly. Then skip 1 chain space. Pick up the next 3 chain spaces and work single crochets. For the rest, insert the hook into corresponding chain spaces. Follow the pattern of working 3 single crochets and skipping 1 chain space. When you reach the sleeve body connection point, treat it as 1 chain space. Then insert the hook at the corresponding position. Or skip according to the pattern. Repeat this process until you reach the final consecutive double crochet stitches. When you reach the corresponding position, pick up the gaps between the double crochets separately as you go down. Work 1 single crochet into each stitch. Once you finish the last gap, that concludes the explanation of the first row method. For the remaining rows, refer to the pattern and crochet accordingly. After completing, fasten off the yarn and weave in the ends. That's it for the explanation of crocheting the cuffs. Next, I'll explain the collar edge. The method is similar to the cuffs. You also need to add the gem twist for crocheting. The insertion point for the single crochets in the first row is slightly different from before. For the first row of the collar edge, pick up stitches along the edge of the back piece and join the yarn. Then separately pick up stitches, chain spaces, and the edges of each row for inserting your hook. At connecting points, pick up the edge holes for insertion. When picking up the side edges of each row, you can pick up the one stitch on the edge. You can also pick up 2 strands, then work the single crochets accordingly. For the remaining rows, just crochet in each and every stitch. Everyone can refer to the chart to complete the collar edge. Finally, sew on the buttons. Here, you need to sew buttons at the opening of the back piece and the openings of the sleeves. When sewing buttons at the opening of the back piece, at the overlapping position, use the crocheting yarn to sew along the edge of the inner fabric piece. There's no specific requirement for the sewing method. As long as it's secure, that's fine. On the outer edge of the fabric piece, the gaps between the double crochets will be the buttonholes. Here, it might be a little difficult to button at first. You can try a few times to enlarge the buttonholes a bit. When sewing buttons at the sleeve openings, use the same method. Sew them along the edge of the inner fabric piece at the overlapping area. The gaps between the double crochets on the outer edge of the fabric piece will be the buttonholes. Everyone, go ahead and complete it. At this point, the entire explanation of the bottom shirt section is finished. Next, we'll make the strap top. It consists of the top part, the hem, the belt, the edging, the shoulder straps, and the lace trim. Start with a beginning chain and crochet upwards for the top part. After completing, pick up and crochet the hem from the other side of the starting point. Next, pick up stitches along the edge of the top to crochet the belt. Once done, crochet the edging around the edges of the top part. Then, pick up stitches at the corresponding position to crochet the lace trim. Finally, make and attach the shoulder straps. Let's start by crocheting the top. It will be explained in 3 sections. First, let's crochet section 1. Begin with a foundation chain, then work back and forth while crocheting upwards. The new stitches used include HDC2 puff and DC2 in 1. Please watch me demonstrate. First, refer to the chart and crochet the corresponding number of chain stitches. My stitch count is smaller for demonstration purposes. After completing it, make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Then pick up the second chain from right to left. Pick up both loops of the chain stitch. Crochet 1 single crochet into it. Next, crochet 1 chain stitch as the interval. Then skip 3 chain stitches to the left. Pick up both loops of the next chain stitch. Crochet an HDC2 puff. First, work 2 incomplete half double crochets. One stitch. 2 stitches. Then yarn over and draw through all loops on the hook in one go. This completes the HDC2 puff stitch. Continue downward with 1 chain stitch as the interval. In the same position, crochet 3 more HDC2 puff stitches. Between each puff stitch, add 1 chain stitch as the interval. After completing this, I will consider these 4 puff stitches and their connecting chains as one puff stitch pattern set. Continue downward with 1 chain stitch as the interval. Then skip 3 chain stitches here, because there is more fabric from the crocheting. It might cover the nearby chain stitches. When counting the chain stitches, you can count the thread below. A diagonal line represents 1 stitch. Then pick up the next stitch and crochet 1 single crochet. Follow with 1 chain stitch as the interval. Skip 3 stitches. Crochet 1 puff stitch pattern. After completing it, crochet 1 chain stitch as the interval, then skip 3 stitches again. Crochet 1 single crochet. Continue alternating between single crochets and puff stitch patterns. Separate the single crochets and puff stitch patterns by 1 chain stitch. At the starting point below, leave an interval of 3 chain stitches. Everyone refer to the chart and continue crocheting. After completing the last single crochet stitch, the first row is now finished. After you finish the first row, make sure to check the number of patterns. Then move on to the second row. Start with 3 chain stitches as the beginning chain. Turn over. Pick up the edge single crochet stitch, and crochet 1 double crochet stitch into it. Then crochet 2 chain stitches for the interval. Next, pick up the left puff stitch pattern. Crochet 1 single crochet stitch into the centered chain space. Make 2 chain stitch interval. Pick up the left single crochet position, and crochet 1 double crochet stitch. Then crochet 1 chain stitch, and 1 double crochet stitch. From here on, refer to the chart and continue crocheting. Finally, crochet a DC 2-in-1 on the edge single crochet stitch. That means making 2 double crochet stitches in one spot. At this point, the second row is complete. Continue with the third row. Start with 3 chain stitches as the turning chain. Turn over. Then pick up the stitch from the edge. Crochet 1 HDC 2 puff stitch. 1 chain stitch. Continue and crochet another HDC2 puff stitch in the same spot. Then make a 1 chain stitch interval. Next, pick up the single crochet position and crochet a single crochet stitch. Make 1 chain stitch interval. Pick up the chain space between the next 2 double crochets. Crochet a puff stitch pattern. Moving forward, everyone can refer to the chart to continue crocheting. Finally, on the 3rd chain of the beginning chain, pick up 2 strands and crochet 1 HDC2 puff stitch. One chain stitch, 1 HDC2 puff stitch. And 1 double crochet stitch. That concludes the explanation for the 3rd row. For the remaining rows, everyone can refer to the chart to crochet. Just finish the corresponding number of rows in section 1. Now, let's talk about section 2. It uses 2 new stitch techniques: slip stitch not too tight and the treble crochet. Here, I'll demonstrate these 2 new stitches with a small sample. At the end of row 1 in section 2, you need to work a slip stitch not too tight. I've already crocheted to the corresponding position here. Next, pick up the corresponding double crochet stitch. Work 1 slip stitch. After completing it, don't pull it too tight. This is the slip stitch not too tight. At the same time, the method for row 1 is now complete. For rows 2 to 5, please refer to the pattern chart to crochet. Next, I'll explain the treble crochet at the end of row 6. First, follow the chart and crochet until just before the corresponding stitch position. Then, work the treble crochet downward. Now, the 2 new stitches used in section 2 are fully explained. For the remaining rows in section 2, everyone can continue crocheting by referring to the diagram. That concludes the explanation for section 2. Moving on, let's discuss section 3. Here, you need to split and crochet the 2 parts separately. First, continue crocheting section 3 on one side with the previous yarn. After completing it, join a new yarn to crochet section 3 on other side. 2 new stitch techniques are used here: the HDC2 puff HDC cluster, the HDC2 puff DC cluster. Next, I will demonstrate these new stitches for you. Please learn them first. Then, combine them with the pattern chart for crocheting. First is the HDC2 puff HDC cluster. First, at the corresponding position, crochet 2 incomplete half double crochets. Then, pick up the corresponding position and crochet another incomplete half double crochet. Finally, yarn over and draw through all the loops on your hook. This completes the HDC2 puff HDC cluster. Next, we'll work the HDC2 puff DC cluster. Pick the corresponding position and crochet 2 incomplete half double crochets. Then, pick the corresponding position again, and crochet an incomplete double crochet. Finally, yarn over and draw through all the loops on your hook. This completes the HDC2 puff DC cluster. That's it for the explanation of the new stitch technique. Everyone can now refer to the pattern and complete section 3. This concludes the explanation of the entire top section. Continue crocheting by moving on to the hem area. Work back and forth along the other side of the starting chain. The new stitches used here include the DC4 bobble. It's the DC4 tog. For the larger size, SC2-in-1 are also used. Please watch as I demonstrate. Here, I'll use this sample swatch for the demonstration. First, place the wrong side of the top's first row facing you. This means the yarn tail from the starting chain should be on the left side. Then, starting from the farthest right position, pick up the edge where the single crochet insertion point is to join the yarn. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. For the smaller size, work 1 single crochet in the same position going downward. For the larger size, you need to work at SC2-in-1. Here, I'll demonstrate the SC2-in-1 using the larger size as an example. It means working 2 single crochets in one position. Then continue downward. Pick up the chain space. Correspondingly work 3 single crochets. In the puff stitch pattern position, pick up the remaining strand of the chain. Work 1 single crochet. In the adjacent chain position, continue to pick up the hole and work 3 single crochets. At the single crochet position, pick up the insertion point and work 1 single crochet. For the following single crochets and puff stitch patterns, pick up the remaining strand of the chain and correspondingly work single crochets. At the chain positions on either side of the pattern, pick the hole and work 3 single crochets into one hole. Repeat this process. Keep working until you reach just before the last stitch position. When you reach the last stitch position, for smaller sizes, correspondingly work a single crochet. For larger sizes, correspondingly work a SC2-in-1. That concludes the explanation of the first row's method. Continue to work on the second row. You need to crochet into half of the stitch when working this row. Start with 1 chain as your beginning chain. Turn over, then pick up the back loop of the stitches. That is, the yarn at the back. Start by picking up the back loop of the first stitch. Work 1 single crochet. Next, skip the corresponding number of stitches before continuing crocheting. The number of stitches to skip differs between small and large sizes. Here, I will demonstrate using the large size as an example. For small sizes, skip 1 stitch. For large sizes, no skipping is needed. Pick up the adjacent stitch position directly. Pick up the back loop of the stitch. Crochet 7 double crochets. The stitch pattern is identical for both small and large sizes here. After completing it, for the small size, skip 1 stitch to the left, while for the large size, skip 2 stitches. Pick up the back loop of the corresponding stitch. Work 1 single crochet, then crochet 3 chains as a bridge. Skip the corresponding number of stitches for your size. Pick up the back loop of the corresponding stitch and work one single crochet. Then continue skipping the appropriate number of stitches. Pick up the back loops and crochet 7 double crochets. Moving forward, always pick up the back loops of the corresponding stitches. Insert the hook and work the corresponding stitches. At the same time, for the smaller size, the number of stitches to be skipped and the number of ending skipped stitches will change. Everyone, be sure to refer to the chart. Continue crocheting downward. After completing the last stitch, the method for row 2 is now fully explained. There are no new stitches used in row 3. Simply refer to the chart and finish this row. Once done, move on to row 4. Start with 3 chain stitches as the turning chain. Turn over. Then crochet 1 chain stitch as an interval. Next, pick up the positions of 4 adjacent double crochets. Work a DC4 tog. First, crochet the incomplete double crochets. Finally, yarn over and draw through all loops on the hook. This completes the DC4 tog. Next, crochet 3 chain stitches as an interval. Then pick up the adjacent chain space. Crochet a DC4 bobble. Start by working 4 incomplete double crochets. Finally, yarn over and draw through all loops on the hook. This completes the DC4 bobble. You can find that the technique for the DC4 tog and the DC4 bobble is identical. The only difference is the insertion point. Continue crocheting with a 3 chain interval. Then pick up the adjacent 4 stitches. Work a DC4 tog. Moving forward, refer to the previous steps, combine with the chart and continue crocheting. Finish the last stitch. That concludes the explanation for row 4. For the remaining rows, continue crocheting by referring to the chart. After completing, fasten off and weave in the ends. This concludes the explanation for the hem section. Next, we will crochet the belt. Here, pick up the side edge of section 1 of the top and crochet back and forth. Crochet one side of the belt first. Place the side edge of section 1 facing up. Then crochet inward from the edge. When you encounter the edge, which is the starting chain position, pick up the insertion point of the previous single crochet and join the yarn, that is, the starting chain position. Then, make 3 beginning chains below. Afterward, pick up the side edges of each row respectively. Crochet 1 double crochet for the first row. Between double crochets, leave 1 chain stitch as a space. Continue crocheting until you reach the position of the last row. Once completed, the first row will be done. For the remaining rows, work back and forth to create this mesh pattern. Everyone, refer to the chart. Keep crocheting until you reach the length marked on the chart. The exact length can also be adjusted according to your preference. That concludes the explanation for one side of the belt. The other side is done using the same method. Here, join the yarn at the last row of section 1. Then, pick up the side edges of each row and continue crocheting downward. For the final stitch, crochet into the starting chain position. For the remaining rows, work back and forth as described. Everyone, complete it. This concludes the explanation for the belt section. Continue crocheting the edging. Crochet along the edges of section 2 and section 3 of the top. Keep crocheting until you reach the other section 2 position. When crocheting here, add the gem twist for crocheting. Before starting, prepare the gem twist first. Then, combine the 2 yarns and crochet them together. I'll demonstrate the method for crocheting next. Here, I'm demonstrating with a small swatch. At the same time, use 1 strand of yarn for crocheting. Start. First, pick up the side edge of the first row of the belt. Join the yarn there. Then crochet 3 chain stitches. Work 1 double crochet in the same position. Move down and insert the hook at a similar interval distance. Make 1 single crochet. Then crochet 3 chain stitches. Next, pick up the same insertion point below the single crochet. Work 1 double crochet. I consider this as one group of patterns. Continue picking a position at about the same distance below and insert the hook. Crochet 1 group of patterns. From now on, insert the hook at intervals corresponding to the length of 1 group of patterns. Work the corresponding group of stitches. Everyone, follow this pattern. Keep crocheting all the way to the edge of the first row of the other side of the belt. And after completing the edge pattern with single crochets, no more crocheting is needed. Just fasten off the yarn and weave in the ends. Everyone, complete it. That's all for the edging explanation. Next, I'll explain how to crochet the lace trim. You also need to add gem twist for crocheting. Follow the corresponding position along the hem. Work back and forth. The new stitch technique used here is DC 3-in-1. Watch me demonstrate. I'll continue demonstrating with the sample swatch. First, place the right side of the top facing up. Then, position one side of the top toward yourself. Locate the first row of stitch positions on the hem. Pick up the remaining half of the stitch. This is also the front loop of the stitch at this point. Insert the hook and start crocheting. Here, Join the yarn from the right edge. I'll use one strand of yarn to crochet. Start with one chain stitch as the beginning chain. Work one single crochet in the same position. Continue downward. Pick up the front loop of each stitch respectively. That is, the strand of yarn at the front. Work single crochets evenly into each stitch. Finish with one single crochet on the edge. That concludes the explanation for the first row. Move on to the second row. Start with 3 chain stitches as the beginning chain. Turn over. Work one double crochet into the same position by picking up the stitch. Continue to pick up stitches, and work DC2 in 1 in adjacent stitches. Then pick up stitches, and work DC3 in 1. That is, work 3 double crochets into one position. Then work as follows, alternate between 2 DC2 in 1 and DC3 in 1. Everyone, follow this method. Crochet until you finish the row. After completing, fasten off the yarn and weave in the ends. At this point, the explanation for the lace trim is complete. Next, let's make the shoulder straps. Use 2 single strands of working yarn. Add 1 strand of gem twist to crochet the shrimp stitch. That is, combine the 3 strands of yarn into one and crochet as if it were a single strand. Below, I will provide a method for crocheting the shrimp stitch. Note, in practice, you should use 3 strands of yarn for crocheting. The tutorial mainly demonstrates the technique. Refer to the chart for the specific length of crocheting. After completing, leave a longer yarn tail for assembly later. Please watch the demonstration. Next, I will demonstrate the crocheting technique of the shrimp stitch. Start with a slip knot. Crochet 2 chain stitches. Then insert the hook into the back loop of the first chain stitch. Yarn over. Pull the yarn through. Yarn over again. Draw the yarn through both loops on the hook. Keep the hook in position. Rotate the fabric piece below clockwise. Then, pick up these 2 strands of yarn with the hook. Yarn over. Pull through. Yarn over again. Pull through the loops on your hook. Continue rotating the fabric piece clockwise. Pick up these 2 strands of yarn with the hook. Yarn over. Work a single crochet. Keep rotating the fabric piece clockwise as you go. Single crochet into the same 2 strands as before. Repeat this method for the rest of the work. Rotate the piece clockwise. Then pick up the 2 vertical strands on the upper left, and work a single crochet. Crochet until you reach the desired length. Secure with 1 chain stitch. Leave yarn tails. Break the yarn. If sewing is required, leave a longer yarn tail. This is the crocheting technique of shrimp stitch. After completing the crocheting, proceed with attaching it. Start with the end of the shrimp stitch that has no yarn tail, and exit it through the hole at the top of the garment. Then make a knot to prevent slipping. Next, try on the strap top while combining it with the bottom shirt for fitting. Check your own wearing preferences. Locate the appropriate position for the other end of the strap top. Here it is in section 2. Then use the reserved yarn tail to pick up the corresponding inside position and sew a few stitches. There's no specific requirement for the sewing method, as long as it's secure. Everyone can now complete this part. Finally, take the belt. And tie a bow. That concludes the explanation of how to make the strap top. Up to this point, the entire set's making process has been fully explained. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website. Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next episode.